All right. Today is our Tuesday lunch break. You're here in the Joyful Feminist group. Thank you so much for joining us either live or hashtag replay. I am so excited to introduce you to one of my new friends who I met online. I was just looking around as usual, finding some super interesting things, and Talaya was sharing her story, and it's a story that's of the utmost importance, I believe, and it's something that is different. And she has this unique offering that I thought a lot of us need to know about. We need to know that this is out there. And so I am so excited. I started reaching out to her, and I was lucky enough that she responded. And I don't know, I just feel like we are going to get so much out of this time together. So, Talaya, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what we're going to explore today while we chat?
Absolutely. First of all, Mary, thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here. And my name is Talaya Dendy. I am a 9-year cancer survivor. I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma in 2011. And that experience has brought me to where I am today as a cancer doula. And so I just want to share a little bit about my journey from 2011 to today and how important it is to really hone in and focus on self care to make sure that you're being true to yourself, to make sure that you're advocating for yourself, especially in the times that we're in today.
Oh my goodness. You guys, I asked her so many times, how do I say your name? And I had it right. And I keep second guessing myself. So that just makes me so sad. All right. So I posted her website on here. It's on theotherside.life. And I just want you to feel like you can go out there and you can explore. So, we've heard of many of us, especially if you're kind of in the wellness sphere, many of us have heard about doulas. I know I like the first thing I did the moment I found out I was pregnant, which is unusual. I know that. But the moment I found out, because I'm interested in all this stuff, is I was like, I need to find the right doula. And I was just so blessed to find an amazing doula. So that's for pregnancy, for delivery, right? But we have this other doula, like avenue, right? And the idea of having somebody to support you through such a challenging time is so exciting to me. I mean, obviously this is such a time where you need somebody who's been there. You need somebody who understands all the emotions and feelings. So many of us are so almost immune to, oh, you got cancer, that sucks. And like, what does that do for somebody who's experiencing this like heightened, scary, uncharted territory? So when I found out that this is what you did, I just thought, oh my gosh, we need to know more about how this could really open things up for somebody who is feeling like they're on a journey alone, even though they know people love them and are rooting for them and are hoping they can heal. So when you were going through this journey, and obviously you probably didn't have a cancer doula, you were doing this alone, can you just explain the kind of experiences you were going through and how navigating that process was?
Absolutely. If it's okay, first I want to start off by explaining how I came to call myself a cancer doula, because a lot of times people don't know what that is. And I originally was calling myself a cancer coach. However, I felt like I was getting lost in the coaching world. There's so many different kinds of coaches out there. And I also felt like what I am doing is really personable. So people are really inviting me into their life, and they're in a very vulnerable state. So, the definition of a doula is someone who supports another person through major life changes and significant health experiences. To me, that sums up cancer. And we all know that birth doulas focus on the beginning of life. death doulas focus on the end of life. As a cancer doula, I focus on the here and now, the present. And I help my clients to work through that big challenge that's in front of them so that they can focus on healing and so that they can become the gatekeepers of their overall health and quality of life. I came to be a cancer doula because on my cancer journey, even though I had a wonderful oncologist, we formed a great relationship right away. I had the support of my family. There was something missing. And that was having someone to talk to who had been through something similar. Yes, your oncologist can say, here's what you can expect at chemo, but many of them have not had cancer. Just being able to talk to someone that truly, truly understands and can say, I understand how you're feeling. I felt the same way. It was different than talking to a friend or a loved one who all they could, really do was just kind of shake their head and, say, oh, I'm sorry you're going through that, something like that. And of course, they were doing the best that they could because, like everyone involved, no one knew what to do. And so I decided that, if I'm feeling this way, there must be a lot of other people feeling this way. And I just felt a void. I tried to go to a support group. And because I was the youngest person there, I was the only Black person there. And a lot of people there were very negative. They were talking about, death and things like that. And I'm like, hey, I want to live. I don't want this in my mind. I don't even want my mind going in that direction. And so I just didn't find the right support group. So I started reading health and wellness books. I started just reading different scriptures. I put together a wellness journal for myself that included daily scriptures that I would read. I would just do a lot of positive affirmations. And I just learned as much as I could about the type of cancer that I had and just focused on the things that I could do to improve my outcome.
That's amazing. And because I was going to ask you, like there are all of these options with respect to support groups. And so it's nice to hear like here were some of the downsides. Yes, there's somewhere to go, but it wasn't filling the actual void and need that you had. And I
Yeah.
also appreciate you bringing up this idea of, your doctor may never have actually experienced cancer. And so even though they're there to support you, they're still supporting you from an angle in which, again, they've not fully experienced the same thing. They've just seen the process from the outside. This is this is just such a huge topic, and you're bringing to light probably what immediately comes to someone's mind who is experiencing cancer
Mhm.
for the first time, right? This is, oh my gosh. And you're talking to somebody who's trying to support you and they like have no idea how to truly do it, even if they have like technically the technical tools.
Yes.
So I find that to be just an amazing thing. So now you experienced, you dove in, you decided not only were you going to beat this, right,
Right.
within your heart and mind and soul, like you connected to something greater than yourself. You dove into these affirmations, you're looking at your scriptures, you're filling some voids, and then as you evolved through the process and came on the other side,
Yes.
you were able to see that other people could be using either these tools, techniques, a service that you felt like you could have. So like you said, you were calling yourself a coach, but how did you move into this idea of, I'd like to support other people in this? Because supporting someone with cancer is actually, I mean, it's a heavy thing,
Yes.
even if it's a loving thing. So how do you just say more about that?
Sure. So one thing that I realized right away is that it's so important to bridge the emotional and medical sides of cancer. And that was the main thing that I saw that was missing. Yes, you know, you have all these great doctors, they have all their medical knowledge and things like that. But just having someone who can truly hold your hand and say, I understand, having someone to ease a lot of the stress and anxiety that comes along with the diagnosis, having someone that can help you, you know, to do the research about your cancer, to do the research about different treatment options, to do research on clinical trials. That helps to empower someone because a lot of times when someone is diagnosed with cancer, they feel powerless. Um, Especially if they've never experienced it before in any way, shape, or form. The first thing is, oh my gosh, am I going to die? And there's all this information coming at you, trying to get all your appointments scheduled, doing different staging and things like that, trying to understand what's happening, wondering what's next. It's like there's all these different things that a person has to navigate. Now, we haven't even talked about relationships. We haven't talked about work. We haven't talked about finances. And all of those things come into play. And it's just so important to have someone who can help ease some of those burdens so that one can focus on healing. Thankfully, you know, the type of person I am, I'm very analytical. I love to learn. I'm that nerdy friend. And so to me, that's kind of what fueled it for me. It gave me the motivation to learn about this thing that just unwelcomingly entered my life, you know. Also, it's so important to change the narrative about cancer. And I think that's where a lot of the fear and anxiety comes from. Today, cancer doesn't mean death, whereas many years ago, a cancer diagnosis may have meant death or was death. And that's not the way it is anymore for many people. There's way more survivors today than there were, say, 10 years ago. And so just helping people to see that so that they can, you know, let go of some of the fear and focus on, okay, what do I want my life to look like once I get through this? Let me make decisions about my treatment options that are going to support the quality of life that I would like to have. So it's so important for people to understand all the areas of one's life that cancer affects. So,
Yeah, I think that, you know, it's when something life-changing happens to you, you don't realize the impact on all those areas. And when you don't have somebody who you can really talk to, who again has the experience, who knows what you're sort of going through, even though everybody is going to have their own individualized experience, there's still so much you can have in relation to someone else.
mm,
So, you know, you decided to become a cancer doula, right?
right.
And you created all of these tools and techniques for yourself. When you were going through all of this, what would you have wanted? You know, what would you have wanted so that you could have felt like, I can breathe a little bit easier. Yes, I'm still nervous, maybe
Mhm.
scared. I don't know what's going to happen. But like, how do you think if things had been different and you had somebody in your court doing whatever it is you really needed, what would have
Mhm.
that have been? Because I think most of us, especially as women, we do not know how to ask for support and the kind of support that we really need. You know, people will say, "Oh, I'm here for you." But we don't even know how to say, okay, well, this is how I need you to be here for me. Because if I do that, I feel like I'm either too needy, I'm asking for too much. And there's all this stuff behind the scenes of if you really were to ask somebody to support you in the way that you needed, we have all these stories or possibly traumas behind it. And so then you step into something as big as a cancer diagnosis or some sort of diagnosis, and now you really, really need support.
Yeah.
And you're still that same person who either doesn't know how to ask for support, or um or you just actually have no idea who to ask for support. So
Mhm.
just could you tell us more about, in your own experience, what would you have actually benefited from if you had been, one, able to really ask, or two, know exactly who to ask who would be able to provide that support?
Mhm. Absolutely. What I would have wanted is what I provide today, and that is personalized support. Someone who has more than 15, 20 minutes to sit down with me and talk with me, get to know me, and really get tuned in with who I am so that they can provide personalized support to me. And that is what I do with my clients. I don't give them a list of resources that I give to 20 other people. I don't have a brief 10 to 15-minute conversation and say, hey, this is what I think you should do. I take the time to get to know the people that I work with because they are trusting me. They are allowing me to take part in a vulnerable time in their life. And to me, that's the biggest honor. And I say the other thing is just having people not even ask, how can I help you, but just be a force of presence. And that is one thing that I really tell, the loved ones of people that I work with. They're like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to support them. And I say, you know what? Just be a force of presence. Because if you become a force of presence, it's going to be apparent what they need. So you have to just show up. Sometimes we don't have the words, and that's okay. Just be there. And I can tell you, I've done research on this. A lot of people just want people to be there instead of having people say, oh, give me a call when you need something, or, let me know when you need me. It's like, just show up, just be there. You know that I have been diagnosed with cancer. Just show up, take the initiative.
I am
Because
interrupting you here because I think that is so unbelievably key. And I only experienced that when I had my baby, because what it brought up for me was so much. Like, I had my child when I was older, and I had all these friends who had already had kids, and I'd always said, hey, I'm here. But I really wasn't there. And it felt so, like, when I really realized it, because of what I needed was people to just show up and actually help.
yeah,
And I realized, like, I never did that in the way in which these people needed. And so now, anytime I see somebody who I don't even know who has a meal train, I try to, like, send them a meal, because
mhm,
I didn't do that because I didn't know better. And when you
mhm,
know better, you can do better. And so I really appreciate that you say, here's how I talk with the loved ones and the friends, because they need to know how to support, because they also are not experiencing this. And then they're also scared. They have
right.
their own set of fears or whatever around this. So thank you so much for bringing that up. I'm so sorry to have interrupted you, but I just
Okay.
feel like we can take that note in
Yes,
so many aspects of our lives, is just show up
just
and
show
just
up.
take over. Like, some people just, like, when people come to my house, I'm always like, just go in the kitchen and get what you need. Like, I want you to feel like you can fully participate. Go get yourself a coffee, go get tea. Like, here's the drawer. Like, make yourself at home, because
Mhm.
when you feel at home, you feel like you can really participate. So this is, I think, everybody, cancer or no cancer,
That's right.
just make yourself available,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
what you think you might want. And you can always tell the people, this is what I would want, so I would like to do this for you. If that is not what you want, be clear, because
that's
this
right.
is not a time to say no. This is a time to accept, to, like, receive. So thank you so much. And
You're
I'm,
welcome.
like I said, I am so sorry to
That
interrupt, because
that's
everything you're
okay.
telling us is so important.
That's okay, no problem. And, like I was saying, we don't have the magic words. There's no manual of how to navigate cancer. There's no manual on how to support someone with cancer. And it is a two-way street. You just said it, being able to receive and then also just showing up. And sometimes you kind of have to figure out, what do they need? Let me test the waters, and just see. Let me ask. And if they say, well, no, that's not quite what I want, or that's not how I want it done, that starts the conversation. And then that gives both parties the okay to say, hey, we're going to do this together. We're in this together. And if you don't like what I'm doing, tell me. And if you do, great. Thank you very much. So it's just, it's so hard to ask for help. That was one of the things that I struggled with. And I learned about the force of presence and how important it was from my mom. And, a couple years after my cancer diagnosis and getting into survivorship, my mom and I were talking about that. And she said, I really didn't know what to do. And I said, you know what, mom, you just being there every day, you did more than you could ever know. And so that's when it really became apparent to me how important it is to just have someone there. And because she was there, she just did things naturally, you know? So at the time, we don't always have the answers, but sometimes just taking the initiative to just be there and just be and sit with the person, hold their hand when they're getting chemotherapy. Don't force words because that's when things kind of get weird. And can kind of go in a different direction, and you both end up feeling uncomfortable. So again, just show up.
And I think that that is something that so many of us fail to remember, that we don't have to fix anything. We just the idea of showing up is huge.
Mhm.
And I want to kind of reiterate this idea of, we can't be all things to every person. And so even if you are the mother, the sister, the partner, you might not be able to even show up in all of those ways. And
Mhm.
so being able to have somebody on your team, such as a cancer doula, it will bring a need to, or it fills a void to a need that you might have in your relationships, because then you don't have to solely rely on your partner or solely rely on your mother. You feel like, you know what, I have invested in the support that I need. And there's just something so freeing about that for everyone, because if the partner knows, they can call the cancer doula and say, this is what I'm experiencing, or this is what I'm feeling. How do you think I could support them? Because sometimes the questions, like, they aren't appropriate for the person who is experiencing. So
Right.
I just feel like we don't really realize to the extent having that third party support can bring, not just to the individual, but to the whole family. Like my only experience is having a doula with, having a baby, right? And how that informed the relationship between my partner, my husband, and I during the birth process was very helpful, because, as the person who's about to have a baby, you just want them to know what the hell to do because you're like in it, right? And so when you have somebody who's just like kind of nudging them along the way, this might be really helpful. Just try this. Like, it's not it's not up to them to solely be able to know all of your needs. It's like there's another person there being able to feel the energy, because the partner might be experiencing their own stuff. So I just love that you are there as part of the full team, and not just for the individual. You're what you just said was, you're providing support to the family. So can you just tell us more about what it is that you do through this process? Or, I mean, I'm sure it's different for everyone, but just
Mhm.
a general idea.
Sure. So I just want to piggyback off of something that you just said. And one thing that I have noticed is that it is important to have, a cancer doula or, someone else that you can talk to because the conversation is different. A lot of times, clients that I work with, they're not going to open up and share certain things with their loved ones that they share with me. So if they're not sharing those things with their loved ones or someone else, that means they're not getting support with those things that they are struggling with. And a lot of times, the person with cancer, they don't want to burden their loved ones and their friends. So they tend to hold things back and hold things in. Well, with me, I'm neutral. My goal is to help walk them through whatever it is they're challenging and help them to get to the other side of their challenges. And so that is so key, because the last thing we want someone with cancer doing is holding in the stress, the anxiety, the fears. That's not helping their immune system. So that's one key thing that I think is so important. A number of ways that I work with my clients are in person, one on one, especially prior to COVID. But now I focus on phone calls and then also Zoom meetings. And the offer that I have is a 3-month package that includes 6 1-hour sessions, one on one via Zoom or on the phone. And one big popular piece of this package is me accompanying people on their appointments. And it's called the Appointment Companion. That can be done via video or in person if they are within a 50-mile radius. And so the Appointment Companion, I either go along with the client to their doctor appointment, or I'm on video and I just kind of sit and observe. I take notes for them so they don't have to worry about that. If I feel like there's a question that probably should be asked, I will ask my client, is it okay if I ask this question on your behalf? And if they say yes, I ask the question, have a little bit of engagement with their doctor or oncologist. I take notes. And after the appointment, my client and we have like a 20 to 30-minute debrief where we talk about different things that were discussed in their appointment. I make sure that they have clarity on the things that were discussed. I answer any questions that they may have. If I can't answer their questions, I will circle back around to their healthcare provider if I have that permission and say, hey, can you provide a little bit more information? And then most importantly, I make sure my clients understand what the next steps are. And so that is how I typically work with my clients. The 4 main areas that we focus on together are health, emotional support, and mindset. Doing research on their cancer treatment options, their type of cancer, and also clinical trials if they're interested. Then also a big piece of it is communication, communicating with your employer, uh, coworkers, family, friends, and having something in place ahead of time so that when you get those questions about your health or what it is that you're experiencing, you already have something prepared, and that helps to take the stress and anxiety off of you. Also, we talk about different ways to politely decline talking about it if you don't feel comfortable discussing it with someone, because sometimes that can, make it really weird for people. And it can make you want to avoid people or make people want to avoid you. And so those are different things that we cover, in addition to focusing on the things that matter to the client. That's first and foremost the main task.
That was brilliant, because this whole idea of how do you approach your employer, what a scary situation for many people, especially depending on the kind of work that they do. That would be such a relief to have somebody to talk it through, to have somebody help you strategize what's the best way to approach this, and what
Mhm.
do I need to ask for that I need in order to heal, right? Like you might need to be like, I need to shift directly into my disability, or do you have disability? Like what can then you expect? So to
Mhm.
have somebody help you walk through that and navigate that without having to actually go to HR which
Yeah.
could feel like a, well, right. I mean, the idea is HR is supposed to be there behind for you, but it
Yeah.
doesn't always feel like that depending on the company. If the company is really small and it's such a tight knit group, like, you don't, you might know that there is no safety,
Right.
even though there's supposed to be,
Mhm.
right? Like,
Yes,
for all of you wonderful people in HR, it's just a complicated thing.
it
And
is.
so the fact that you brought that up was amazing. I love this idea of communication and when you want to talk about it, when you don't want to talk about it, what's on the table, what's off the table, and having somebody to help you work through all of that, and
Mm,
having somebody go to the appointments with you that
mhm.
is not 100% neutral, right? But who is there with a different set of tools than the partner, than the loved one who's like sitting there also possibly either in fear,
Mm,
denial, grief, whatever's going on, instead of
mhm.
really just being only in their head.
That's right. Yes,
So
that's
that, I
right.
mean, the just the value alone of what you are providing on all of these fronts is truly incredible.
Thank you.
And so like I said, guys, I was just so excited when I heard about this because we all can use so much more support in our daily life than we allow because
Yeah.
of whatever. And you don't want to let something stop you from reaching out and getting the support you need, because things just will come back to you in such a positive way if you allow yourself to receive the kind of care that you deserve, right? Because one of the reasons some of us might get into certain situations is because we allow these emotions to get stuck, to get lodged. So this offer that you have, it's a very full service. It sounds like you have, you can also have me come to the appointments. You can have this. You could, so it sounds it can be tailored to each person, but that you have some
Absolutely.
general guidelines based off of your own experience.
That's right. Making it generalized to fit the individual person was so important to me because we're all strong and weak in different areas. And so, for example, if someone feels like they're not a good self advocate, I can be that for you. We can get you up to speed, and that's what we will focus on. And what I have to offer is about empowerment because being diagnosed with cancer, you just feel like everything is wiped away. Your power is wiped away because so much uncertainty has invaded your life. And one way to feel more confident and feel empowered is to get these tools in place as early as possible. And it starts with self advocacy. It starts with, hey, this is how I want to be treated. This is how I want to be, talked with, not to, but with. Because, when you come into this, it's so important to form a partnership with your oncologist. Show up and have those conversations, ask those questions, and make sure that they understand that you are an active participant in your health. It's so important, especially today. And I can tell you that when you show up in that way, you will see a level of respect. Hopefully your oncologist will appreciate you stepping up and showing them that, hey, I care about my health. They will meet you there. Well, thankfully my oncologist did, but really this service is about empowering people to become the gatekeepers of their overall health and quality of life, because that's what this is about. And it's just so important to feel like you don't have to do that alone, and just showing up for yourself. A lot of times we're so busy in our daily lives, and for me, I'll speak for myself. For me, I can honestly say that I was putting everyone else before me, work, saying yes to a lot of things I didn't want to say yes to, overextending myself, keep pushing myself in, even when I knew I was tired, not doing the things that I love to do. And unfortunately, it took cancer for me to see that. It took cancer for me to see that I was doing all the things that society said I should do: go to college, get a great corporate job, I think that was slowly killing me because I wasn't happy. I wasn't feeling fulfilled. And now here I am 9 years later, and I just stepped out on faith and said, "Hey, let's see what happens." If it doesn't go my way, at least I tried. At least I'm following my passion and I'm pursuing my purpose. So,
Yes, totally. And I think, this group that we're speaking with, right? We're speaking with the Joyful Feminist group on Facebook, and it is about femininity, it is about the divine feminine, about women, about empowering women, but you don't solely work with women,
right.
correct? And I think
Correct.
that this is really important because there is some people that are always just going to jive better with one of the sexes,
Yeah.
but because this affects us at so many levels with all these different relationships, I think that it's really important. So, can you just say something about working with men and cancer? Because it's a very vulnerable place, and some men are not used to being vulnerable because society just hasn't really allowed them to be so. So, is there anything you want to say about also working with men? Because we're not, just because we're feminists doesn't mean we don't love our men folk. Some of them need some help
Yeah.
in other ways, but they also need to be supported. So can you just say anything about that?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you for mentioning that. I will be honest and say that all of my clients so far to date have been women. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that women are just more comfortable stepping up and saying, "Hey, I need a little bit of help here." But I want to say to the men that, you're welcome. I'm very happy to work with anyone really. And it's so important for men to say, "Hey, I need a little bit of help." Or if the loved ones in men's lives step up, reach out to me and say, "Hey, my husband or boyfriend or brother is not going to reach out to you, but can you talk to them?" And I think that if those conversations start, they will start to see that, hey, maybe I need a little bit of help. Because sometimes people don't know what they need, they don't know what's out there, what exists. And, I just want to say to men that you don't always have to keep up this macho facade because we're all human. We all have the same emotions. We all have a lot of the same needs, despite, what society says. But cancer doesn't discriminate at all. It doesn't matter your age. It doesn't matter your race, your sex, your any of that, your gender, any of those things. And there have been people that, are rich. And unfortunately, they did not survive cancer. So it does not matter. Everyone needs help, especially when they are trying to navigate cancer. And I just want to say to the men out there, don't be afraid to ask for help. It has nothing to do with being weak. Actually, when people ask for help, it shows their strength because they are saying, I'm going to put my fears and vulnerabilities aside to get the help that I need so I can get to the next level, get to the next step, to get through whatever it is I'm going through. I truly believe there's some things that we go through in life that are not designed to go through it alone.
We've covered so much wonderful stuff about what kind of support your role can bring to a family, to an individual. Is there anything that we haven't discussed that you would love to share before we talk about how people can find out more about you?
I think that we've covered a lot of ground, and I just want to, tell people that if they want to reach out and talk to me in more detail on a more personalized level, I would love to speak with them. I do offer a free 45-minute call, and that call is really to learn more about, the kind of support that people need, and then also to explain how I can support them in those particular areas. Or, sometimes people just need someone to kind of vent to and say, hey, I don't need your services right now, but in case I do later or a friend or a loved one does. I just want to have the conversation. So that's perfectly fine as well.
That's great because I think a lot of us don't realize, a lot of people I talk to and work with, this referral network is really important. Earlier on when we started doing this in the group, this Tuesday lunch break, I had a lawyer on, and she has a very specific, unique set of skills, but she said, just reach out to me because I know lawyers. So I might know the kind of lawyer that you need. So it's okay if you remember me because I will put you in contact with the right people. And so I think that that is a great thing. It's like, don't don't think that, it's not okay to reach out in advance, because
Mhm.
then you really have, like, you have this keen sense of knowing, like,
Yeah,
this is where I would be going, right? Like, this is who I want to tap on their shoulder, or who I want to recommend to a friend, right? Because even just watching this segment, you might have a really great feeling like, oh, this is who I want to reach out to. But when you really communicate with a person, you have this other knowing about them. And so I think that that is a
right.
wonderful thing, and thank you for offering that as part of, hey, just you can get to know me, and then
Absolutely.
if the time or need arises, I am here. And I really
Absolutely.
appreciate that, because a lot of people, because they might still just struggle with asking for the help, you know,
Mhm.
just reach out. It's a free 45-minute call that there's always value to, not always, but I would say probably 90% of the time, anyone who's offering you their time and support, they
Mhm.
are doing so to be of service to you, because this is their passion, this is their love. I speak from experience. When people call me, I am so excited to be there for them, regardless of whether they're going to work with me long term or not. And so I appreciate you offering that. And your website, and it's right here, we can easily see it, and I have it also in the group. Is there anywhere else that you would want them to find out more about you, or anything like that?
Absolutely. So I have a page on LinkedIn under my name, Talaya Dendy. That's my personal page. I also have a business page on the other side. Again, that's on LinkedIn. I actually have a Facebook group. It's called Navigating Cancer Together. And my Facebook group is for really anyone that's been impacted by cancer. It could be current cancer patients, survivors, caregivers. So anyone's welcome to that. And again, it's called Navigating Cancer Together on Facebook. I also have a Facebook page on the other side. And of course, my website. Again, you can see it there. Oh, how did I forget Instagram? Instagram on the other side, 17. So those are the ways that people can, reach me, browse around, learn more about me, kind of see what I talk about, and yeah, reach out to me, get to know me. I'm happy to get to know you and talk with you.
Thank you so much for your time today. Am I'm so glad to be connected with you. I follow her. um, and I just, like she said, it's just good to follow things, just to be aware if the need arises, not maybe for yourself, but even for a friend. So thank you so much for your time today. I so appreciate it. And anyone on our page here, feel free to ask a question. She is also part of our group, and she will answer them or point you in the right direction. Um, but feel free to reach out to her, because she, again, has a unique perspective, and it might be really in alignment with what you or a family member or friend needs. So thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for your time. And we're
Thanks for
just going to
having me.
end our Facebook Live. All right. Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you. Bye bye.